Imagine waking up to silence. The birds are gone. The light outside your window is dim, fading, unnatural. You step out and realize the impossible. The sun, the very heart of our existence, has gone dark. No sunrise, no warmth. Just an endless night stretching across the earth forever. For billions of years, the sun has been our unseen guardian. A nuclear furnace, 93 million miles away, burning with unimaginable power. Every second, it releases more energy than humanity has consumed in its entire history. It's the reason water flows, plants grow, and life exists. But what if one day that constant stopped? What if the sun simply went out? Not for a moment, not for an eclipse, but forever. At first, you might not even notice. The light would vanish instantly, but the earth would keep shining faintly for a few moments from the glow of electricity and fire. Then, about 8 minutes later, the time it takes sunlight to reach Earth, the last rays would fade from the sky. The moon would go dark, the stars would return, but not with beauty, with terror. Humanity would see the universe not as a comforting backdrop, but as an endless frozen abyss. Within hours, the temperature would begin to plummet. The warmth you take for granted, the soft air on your skin, the liquid rivers, the gentle wind, would all start to vanish. Day 1 would feel like a global winter storm. By day 2, it would be colder than Antarctica everywhere. Within a week, the average global temperature would fall below 17 degrees or 1 degrees. Cities would go black. Power grids designed for warmth would overload and fail. Solar panels would become useless relics. The sky would turn into a void. No blue, no clouds, just the haunting black of space. And in that blackness, the stars would be mercilessly clear. For the first time in human history, people would truly understand how small we are. But the real question isn't just how Earth would change, it is how long we would last. For the first few days, humans could survive using artificial heat and stored energy. Fires, generators, and nuclear power plants could keep certain areas alive temporarily. Underground bunkers, subway systems, and deep shelters would become our last sanctuaries. But even the best technology cannot fight the laws of thermodynamics. The Earth's atmosphere would cool, and soon the oceans would begin to freeze from the top down. Within 2 weeks, the oceans would be covered by thick sheets of ice. Beneath that ice, however, the deeper layers might remain liquid for thousands of years, warmed by geothermal energy from the planet's core. Strange as it sounds, microbial life near deep-sea vents could survive, living in total darkness as they did billions of years before sunlight ever touched Earth. But on the surface, extinction would spread quickly. Plants would die first. Photosynthesis would stop instantly. Without sunlight, trees, grass, and crops would wither. Herbivores would starve, followed by carnivores, and soon the food chain would collapse. Humanity would face famine not over decades, but within weeks. Governments would try to respond. There would be chaos, mass migrations, wars for heat, food, and survival. The only chance would lie underground, in geothermal facilities or nuclear-powered bunkers where small groups might cling to life. Scientists have estimated that if the sun went out today, humanity could potentially survive for a few decades with enough energy and resources. But civilization as we know it would vanish long before that. And yet, even in this darkness, something strange would happen. For the first time, the night sky would reveal the full glory of the cosmos. Without sunlight or atmosphere to obscure it, billions of galaxies would be visible. Rivers of light scattered across infinity. We would see the Milky Way not as a faint ribbon, but as a dazzling, luminous structure. Perhaps in that darkness we would rediscover awe, but science offers an even deeper perspective. The sun can't just turn off. It's a massive nuclear reactor, fusing hydrogen into helium at its core. If it were to suddenly vanish, it would defy physics itself. But let's imagine it did. The gravitational pull that keeps the planets in orbit comes from the sun's mass. If the sun simply disappeared, Earth would immediately fly off its orbit, not spiraling into the dark sun, but shooting tangentially into space, like a rock released from a slingshot. Within minutes, our planet would begin its lonely drift into interstellar darkness. No orbit, no day, no night, just eternal cold and silence. Over centuries, the atmosphere would freeze, collapsing into solid layers of nitrogen and oxygen on the ground. The oceans would become slabs of ice miles thick. Only deep underground, or near volcanic vents, would heat remain. Could life adapt? Maybe. On Earth, life has always found a way. There are organisms that thrive in boiling acid, frozen glaciers, and the vacuum of space. Microbes might evolve, slowly, to survive without sunlight, feeding on chemical reactions instead of photosynthesis. In a way, Earth would return to its ancient origins, a world of darkness and deep heat. But for humans, the story would be far more tragic and philosophical. Think about it. For all of human history, we've worshipped the sun. Every ancient civilization, from Egypt to the Aztecs, saw it as divine. It gives light, life, and order. Without it, time itself would lose meaning. Days, months, and years are all built around its rhythm. Without the sun, morning and evening would become relics of a dead world. Humanity would live by clocks and memory alone. What would happen to the human mind in such a world? Psychologically, darkness is devastating. Studies show that long polar nights already cause depression and confusion. Now imagine a world where the sun never rises again. Over generations, humans might evolve to see better in the dark, or lose their sense of time entirely. Societies would rebuild around artificial light, measuring time not by daylight, but by power cycles. Light would become sacred again, not as religion, but as survival. And maybe, in those underground refugees, people would tell stories. Stories about the time when there was a sun, when oceans shimmered and skies burned blue, when warmth was taken for granted. For future generations, those stories might sound like myth, like tales of Eden, told by survivors who once walked in the light. But could humanity ever bring back the sun? Science fiction offers hope. Some theories imagine harnessing nuclear fusion, the same reaction that powers the sun, to create artificial mini-suns. A controlled, man-made star could provide heat and energy to small colonies. It wouldn't be enough to light the sky, but it might save what remains of life. In fact, scientists are already working on fusion reactors like ITER, humanity's first attempt to create a star on Earth. And if technology advanced far enough, we might even build giant mirrors or orbiting satellites to reflect light from distant stars, turning them into faint replacements for the sun. It wouldn't be the same, but it would prove something extraordinary. That even when nature's light dies, human imagination burns on. Still, beyond science, there's something deeper about this thought experiment. The sun's disappearance isn't just physical. It's symbolic. The sun represents everything we depend on but don't control. Its vanishing reminds us of how fragile our existence truly is. Every breath, every tree, every heartbeat, all are powered by a star we never touch, never hear, yet utterly rely on. If the sun went out forever, it would be the universe reminding us that permanence is an illusion, that even the mightiest stars fade. And maybe, in facing that truth, we'd rediscover humility, that small, powerful awareness that we are temporary, but capable of wonder. There's also a haunting beauty in imagining Earth's final moments. As the planet drifts through space, frozen and silent, it would still carry traces of what once was: cities buried under ice, forests turned to crystal, and maybe, deep below the surface, the last heartbeat of life. Billions of years later, another civilization might find our world, a fossil planet orbiting nothing, telling the silent story of a species that once basked in sunlight. Would they know we once lived here? Would they understand what sunlight meant to us? Or would Earth be just another cold rock in the endless dark, proof that even life can be forgotten? In a way, that question mirrors our own existence. We live as if the sun will always rise, as if tomorrow is guaranteed. But everything, stars, civilizations, lives, has a limit. The sun itself will one day die, not by vanishing, but by transformation. In about 5 billion years, it will expand into a red giant, swallowing Mercury and Venus, maybe even Earth. Then it will shrink into a white dwarf, a glowing ember in space, still shining faintly for trillions of years. So yes, the sun will go out, but not today. Not for you. Not for me. And that's a miracle in itself. Every sunrise, every shadow, every flicker of warmth is a reminder of our brief moment in the light. The universe doesn't owe us that light. It's a gift, fragile, fleeting, and sacred. So if one day the sun did go out, the tragedy wouldn't just be physical darkness. It would be the end of beauty, the end of the golden glow that made us dream, paint, write, and love. But maybe that awareness is what gives our lives meaning right now. Because we know that one day it could all vanish. And that realization, that mix of fear and wonder, is what makes being alive so extraordinary. If you love exploring the unknown, subscribe to Beyond Theory to keep diving deeper into reality's biggest mysteries, where science, philosophy, and imagination meet to remind us how fragile and how beautiful existence really is.